It's the Morning Star Drive 117.8. You soaring up with sky, now's the time, don't delay. I'm sitting in my ride and it's time to fly. So let's realign, just listen and fill your mind.
I'm burning with desire and the passion. Nobody can stop me when I'm like this. I got my head in the zone, you know. I'm on the Morning Star Drive, you know.
Hey guys, how's it going? It's Tuesday, June 7th. And this is the Morning Star Drive on 117.8. We're on YouTube, so make sure to subscribe, follow us on SoundCloud, and make sure to support us on Patreon. So what is happening on this wonderful Tuesday? We've got current news from around the world, looking into the book of Psalms, and thoughts of the week on understanding our own missions. All right, everyone, how are you doing today? It is Tuesday. Yes, Monday is officially over. We are diving deep into the weekend. I hope you guys are realizing what God is doing and how he's working through you this week. Thanks for everyone joining us here on the Morning Star Drive. So everyone keep liking and commenting. Want to hear from you guys and see how you are doing. But most importantly, let's build this community for English-speaking members all around the world. We've got tons of new people coming in, people from Hong Kong, people from Taiwan and Korea, Japan, Australia, and all over Europe, North America. So it's really cool to see that a lot of us are getting together through these social media platforms. And, you know, just even for myself, what I see out there, just the way the world works and the way that the people are, how the human mind is, when people can manipulate it really well, this is when there's a lot of like craziness going on. And wow, you know, we need a place where we're able to be normal, where people aren't like hating on each other. Like there's just so many. I was dealing with one of these investors on this crypto project, and not dealing with meaning like I'm not managing them or anything else like that. It's just they were so angry and upset, and in the end, I solved it. Like we basically solved that answer within a day and a half. Right? And this is something this person's been struggling with for like a month. And they are like writing on their Twitter how terrible the project is and how this is like this and oh, I can't stand it. And they're even giving, it's crazy how far this person went. This person went to the extreme of giving away $250 just to kind of get a message out that this project was bad. I talked to him like 2 days ago. I said, hey, what's the issue? It's like this. He's like, well, this is. I was like, okay, let me solve this. We solved it in a day and a half. And then after, he's like, oh, okay. So I'm going to take my Twitter down now. And, so it was that easy. But isn't it so interesting, the mind of human beings? Like how, like it's us how we work, especially when we're emotional. And you see it through like the Johnny Depp, Amber Heard trial. People are going nuts on the media. You see this just in politics, in churches. It's everywhere. And I'm really like, in my head, it doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't compute in my head is, why would you waste so much time to like talk bad or to, like even spend your own money to make someone else bad? You know what I mean? Like, it's really weird for me. It's like, wow. But then I thought to myself, well, this is what slanderers do too. And I thought to myself, is like, have I ever been like that before? And I'm like, yeah, of course I have. It's always when jealousy comes in. When jealousy snoops in, this is when we become super emotional. And from that point on, we'll even give our time and our money to something where in reality, if we weren't in that emotional state, we wouldn't even waste our time on those things. So for me, I'm just like, wow, this is really how the world is working. And I think the more and more we kind of step back and take a look at what's going on, we see how much people need God. And we see that providence being in this history, like we have problems. We do, right? Just like any other organization, like any other church, we're not perfect. We're still in the process of building the kingdom of God. But it's not like that. Do you know what I mean? It's like not like the world. Like the problems we have are not worldly problems. They're not that extreme. I'm just like, oh, that is so interesting. So when I looked at that, I was like, Yeah, I'm so happy to be in Providence, and it makes me want to go deeper into Providence even more. So yeah, yeah, it was just really weird just seeing all these things happen at the same time over the past, like you could say, even over the past 2 years, or even since, even longer than that. It's just been out there how crazy and divisive the world is, and how people just latch onto it because it's very, very emotional. So I think it's something that's very important that all of us have to understand what the world is like, what we're coming out of into Providence. We have problems in Providence, but it's nothing like the world. So that's one of these realizations I've been having more and more just by seeing, like, on YouTube and social media, people slandering, and people like in politics and sports, and yeah, it's just so crazy. Either way, comment below if you guys have felt that too. Like, comment if you felt something like that also, because this is like really strong for me lately. And just a reminder to everyone, the song of choice, I made the decision, I talked about it yesterday. We will continue with the song of choice, and I'm just very grateful and thankful for everyone with their input and their thoughts on what they thought about the song of choice for the day. And like I said, my overall thought is we just have such a mature and spiritual audience that, people, if they don't like something, they just skip it. Right? And it's kind of like that Providence mentality of we have our own responsibility. And putting out a worldly song, 1 out of 7 songs isn't, and we're not putting out like the junk stuff, like massive cussing and people like talking about like really bad things. I don't think we've ever played anything like that yet. You guys can correct me if I'm wrong. Yesterday I made a new video for Espresso with Sky. It was 2 days ago, and it was quite interesting because it's kind of cute because my mom saw my first video last Friday, and she's like, I think I need to, she didn't even tell me. Even before I recorded my second video, she already like rearranged the plants so that it would look prettier in the video. She didn't even say anything. I only found out later when I set everything up. I was like, whoa. And she's like, oh yeah, I set that up there so it looks better. I was like, oh wow. So I thought that was really cute of my mom. But yeah, my mom's amazing. Either way, I hope you guys are enjoying, enjoying your week so far, and enjoying these videos that I'm posting here on, not just on MSD, but also on Espresso with Sky. And hope you guys, if you have any, this is what I was going to ask you guys. Do you guys have any other questions or things that I can do a video on for new content? Because now that new content's coming out, I want to be able to have a bunch of videos ready to go so that we'll be able to, I want to have a bunch of videos available, or topics available so that I can make more videos too. So please, in the comments below, I would love to hear another like Bible or life topic that you would like to hear about on the Espresso with Sky. So just put it in the comments below. Love to hear it. Okay. This week's Thursday Espresso with Sky videos on the 3 stages of demon possession. Ooh, right? Last Sunday, we didn't have a Sunday edition interview, so it is another break week, but we are looking for some more people who'd like to do some interviews. I would love to interview more people also. Okay? All right, so let's get this show started on the road with member artists from around the world on this amazing Tuesday. So who are we going to start off with today? Today's featured artist of the day is J Root from the Paper News Associates in Korea with the song From Now and Forever. This is like really relaxed, and today is very relaxed and chill music for member artists. We're going to start with J Root with From Now and Forever. And then the second song is the Somebody Boys from America with an older song from their last album, A Nothing Could Go Wrong. And they'll end things off with Diarings from Korea with their new song that just dropped 2 weeks ago, and that song is Flow.
It's been a long time we have been separated and staying apart. As you can see at last, it's the time we were waiting for. Every day, every night when I pray, when I sing a song, yeah, I made up my mind, I don't wanna lose you anymore. 수많은 시간을 참고 기다려왔잖아. 눈앞에 있는 그댈 놓칠 순 없어 나. 간절한 이 마음도 깊어지는 이 순간, 이젠 그대와 함께 사는 거야 from now.
I remember back in the days In deep sorrow I pray 편지 한 장 그 안에 담긴 사연 힘겨운 하루에 작은 힘이 될 수 있다면 굳이 답장하지 않아도 난 괜찮아 주위 모든 게 그대가 되어 나에게 전하 구름과 햇살 그림자와 빗소리에 피어나 You and me another love story
수많은 시간을 참고 기다려왔잖아 눈앞에 있는 그대 놓칠 순 없어 난 간절한 이맘 더 깊어지는 이 순간 이젠 그대와 함께 사는 거야 from now 그댄 어디쯤에 있을까 유난히 밝은 저 판단이 누운 곳에 그대 처음 반짝이던 마음이 다시금 빛날 때 가벼운 발걸음 어느새 그대 향해 넘어가는 달력에 숨이 넘어갈 듯 달려가네
앞서는 걱정을 뒤로 해 피곤해 지쳐있을 그땐 내가 필요해 기도해 그땐 이별의 하늘 위로하며 슬퍼했지만 이제 양손을 하늘 위로 하고 소리쳐 난 행복한 사람 나의 영원한 행복은 그대가 내게 주니까
수많은 시간을 참고 기다려왔잖아 눈앞에 있는 그대 놓칠 순 없어 난 간절한 이맘 더 깊어지는 이 순간 이젠 그대와 함께 사는 거야 from now
Yeah, yeah, today's the day I missed you so much my darling 오래전부터 손꼽아 기다린 날이 내게 오다니 Is it a dream? No, it is real 당신이 자랑스러워 하실 내 모습 Yeah, 내가 준비한 작은 선물 아직 많이 부족하고 또 아쉬운 것 투성이지만 이제 내 목소리를 고백하고 싶어 그대의 눈을 바라보며 이 노래 들려주고 싶어 Yeah
수많은 시간을 참고 기다려왔잖아 눈앞에 있는 그대 놓칠 순 없어 난 간절한 이맘 더 깊어지는 이 순간 이젠 그대와 함께 사는 거야 from now from now from now and forever
Be a fast life, a short life, depending how you living. Nothing could go wrong if I'm with you, it's so fulfilling. And if you keep the time, really God walks with you. Not even just walks with you, He will even talk with you. That is right. Been feeling life is different, everything depends on me. And having my own thoughts, that's really a test to me. The more I make myself, the more valuable I become. I have to take action, that's the final outcome. How could I ever forget the moments that we spent together? It's those past memories that will put you together. It's what you do after the mess up that counts. I give glory and thanks even in times of doubt. Don't just say you have the heart but don't do it. You say you want, you gotta show Him and prove it. You have to be a life the Lord really remembers. Don't just walk around for no reason, do better. As long as I have the Lord, then nothing could go gas, pushing the pace as I start this race. I have to get my mind straight so I can become great. The time I have now, I really must cherish. It could be gone at any moment, it really just vanish. I know it's been a while since I sat and even wrote a song. I wonder if my words sound good or even flow at all, and how I wanna share your words to the entire world. Alright, I'm sorry, let me fix myself. If I think of you, I know I will do well. It's times like these, I know I will prevail. Yeah. Don't just say you have the heart, but don't do it. You say you won, you gotta show him and prove it. You have to be a life the Lord really remembers. Yeah, nothing could go wrong if we do it together.
편한
and that is the hot new song from Die Wings from Korea. Great summer song. That song is called Flow. Before that, Somebody Boys from America with the song from the last album, Nothing Could Go Wrong. And of course, the feature artist of the day, that is J Root from PMA in Korea with From Now and Forever. All right, so let's get into some news going on around the world. What is happening around the world? And what are the 3 reasons that Sunstein watches the news? Number 1, to see what God is doing. Number 2, to see what we need to report and pray for. And last but not least, what are the things we need to comfort God's heart in? So let's start off with what we've missed when it comes to the Russia-Ukraine crisis. So let's get some updates when it comes to the battle for Severodonetsk. Fighting around that region now represents the hottest area of conflict in Ukraine, and this comes from their military intelligence chief. Russian troops are being gradually ousted from the eastern city, says Major General Kirilo Budanov. Meanwhile, Russia is also continuing its push towards Sloviansk, a city nearby. That's what Ukrainian armed forces are saying. And much of the fighting remains concentrated in the eastern Donbass region, where Russia refocused its efforts in recent months. In other developments, the UK is sending its first M270 long-range missiles to Ukraine. And of course, we also heard the other day that Russian President Vladimir Putin has said his forces will increase their attacks on Ukraine if Western countries continue to send long-range weapons to the country. Ukraine's President Zelensky says he visited the Donbass region on Sunday, where he visited certain areas like Lysychansk, Soledar, and met soldiers in the southeastern area. A Russian major general was killed in fighting in the Donbass region, which is the latest in a string of high-profile military deaths on the Russian side. Right now, actually, the Ukraine President Zelensky is making kind of media briefings in Kyiv at the moment. He does it, I think, every day almost. And he says that Ukrainian forces are holding out against Moscow's troops in the eastern city of Severodonetsk, but are outnumbered by a stronger Russian force. And he says they're holding out, but there are more of them and they are stronger. And he told journalists, adding that Severodonetsk and neighboring areas were both dead cities now. So the fall of Severodonetsk to Russia would mean Moscow controls almost all of the Luhansk region, which makes up half of the Donbass. So that is some pretty interesting updates that we have to keep in mind. Zelensky is also warning of a huge grain buildup. So he says more now. The president said that as many as 75 million tons of grain could still be stuck in the Ukraine for the autumn if a Russian blockade of its ports on the Black Sea continues. Zelensky estimates that 22 to 25 million tons are currently unable to be sent overseas, according to Reuters. Ukraine is one of the world's top exporters of grain, including wheat, and the war has triggered warnings of global food supply shortages. And Russia's President Putin last week denied his country was blocking Ukrainian exports. So let's see what happens here. And of course, this is affecting just so many countries around the world. It's affecting gas prices. It's affecting food prices, food shortages. So, it doesn't make anything worse. It doesn't make anything better because Russia and Ukraine control a lot of the world's grain supply and gas supply too. So, that's something we really need to pray about. Next, we're going to go into the UK. The UK is very interesting because today, right? Or for, in Asia, it'll still be today for you guys. For us over here, it's going to be in the next 7-8 hours. MPs are going to be voting on whether to keep Boris Johnson as their prime minister. So there's a vote of non-confidence, right? So the vote is going to be running from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m., and the result will be announced at 9 p.m. And, the voting is only done by the MPs. And if Johnson loses, he'll be forced to stand down as the prime minister. Boris Johnson did address conservative MPs before they voted, and he basically said, "I'll win for you again." And he told the MPs in a private meeting. Most of the cabinet say they will support him, but former Foreign Secretary Jeremy Hunt says he should leave. Leader of the Scottish Conservatives, will also vote against the PM, and the Communists vote follows anger over Sue Gray's report detailing lockdown rule breaking in Downing Street. So that was kind of a huge thing that was happening because during the lockdown, they're telling everyone to mask and not gather. They were doing it at his house, right? So, and there were pictures and stuff like that too. So that became this big thing that gives people, that's why this vote is going in for non-confidence. So we'll see what happens here. Last but not least, we'll go to South Korea and the U.S. And South Korea and the U.S. fire missiles in warning to North Korea. So this is kind of crazy. South Korea and the U.S. launched 8 missiles on Monday in response to a volley of ballistic missiles fired by North Korea the previous day. Now, it comes as Pyongyang continues to escalate its missile tests. South Korea's President Yoon Suk-yeol said his government would respond sternly to any provocation from its northern neighbor. And he also he was quoted, "We will make sure there isn't a single crack in protecting the lives and property of our people." So speaking at a war memorial event in Seoul, he added that North Korea's nuclear and missile programs are reaching the level of threatening not only peace on the Korean peninsula, but also in Northeast Asia and the world. The US and South Korea regularly hold joint military exercises which often anger North Korea, and early on Monday, hours after North Korea fired several missiles off its coast, the two allies launched 8 surface-to-surface Army tactical missile systems, 1 from the US and 7 from South Korea. Analysts say the moves are South Korea showing off its muscle with the aid of US weaponry. Now, it is the second retaliatory display from the US and South Korea in as many weeks, with a similar move made last week after Pyongyang fired a series of missiles in the immediate aftermath of US President Joe Biden's visit to the region. Now, such displays had been rare under South Korea's previous administration. President Yoon, who was inaugurated last month, has pledged to take a more hardline approach on North Korea. The isolated communist state has test-fired dozens of missiles in recent months, including an intercontinental ballistic missile for the first time in 5 years. The UN does prohibit North Korea from ballistic and nuclear weapon tests and has imposed strict sanctions after previous tests. So, this is probably another big thing that Sun seems praying about too. So I hope that God, this is the month. June is the month where God, if we do perfect prayers, God will answer it, and I hope that we'll continue in the prayer conditions that we are setting each and every day. Let's move into some sporting news. NBA playoffs, Game 2 of the NBA Finals. Golden State just demolished the Boston Celtics 107-88. I thought it was going to be a blowout too. Series now tied at 1-1. Steph Curry with 29 points, 6 rebounds, 4 assists, and then Jason Tatum 28.6 rebounds and 3 assists in a losing effort. And it's a good bounce back game because he was terrible that first game too. So they'll go back to Boston for 2 more games, and the Game 3 will be on Wednesday. NHL playoffs. What's happening with NHL playoffs? It's Game 3 of the Eastern Conference semifinals, and the Tampa Bay Lightning defeated the New York Rangers 3-2, but they're still down in the series 2-1. And that's kind of how it's supposed to go. The home teams are supposed to win their home games. So right now, there's nothing really to be worried or nervous about, right? You only get nervous when you're in Edmonton situation when you're down 3-0. Right, which has never, ever been done in hockey, like people coming back from that. So we'll see what happens from that too. In soccer news, this is in Canada, guys, and this is in Vancouver. What just happened yesterday, right? Or 2 days ago. No, it was yesterday. No, 2 days ago? Yeah, 2 days ago. What happened? Canadian men's soccer team goes on strike. They go on strike, and they went on strike 2 hours before their game here in Vancouver. Lots of people bought tickets, flew into Vancouver to watch the Canadian men's soccer team, and they went on strike. So the players for the Canadian men's soccer team refused to take the pitch for Sunday's World Cup warm-up match against Panama in Vancouver because of a dispute over the distribution of prize money, the team announced in an open letter obtained by TSN's Rick Westhead. The 33 players who comprise the national team also boycotted training Friday and Saturday, according to the Canadian press. Sunday's match at BC Place was called off less than 2 hours before kickoff. Players are at odds with Canada Soccer over the reported $10 million the federation is expected to receive from FIFA for reaching the Men's World Cup for the first time in 36 years, demanding a 40% share in compensation. They also called for a transparent review of Canada Soccer's broadcast and commercial dealings, a comprehensive package of accommodations for friends and family traveling to Qatar, a structure that pays both men's and women's players equally per World Cup match, and the development of a women's soccer league. There was a spokesperson for Canada Soccer. They basically told the news here on Saturday that the players demanded 75 to 100% of the prize money, and the federation claims it offered to split 60% evenly between the men's and women's teams. Canada Soccer President Nick Bontis said during a press conference on Sunday that the federation is working with the players in good faith to find a path forward that is fair and equitable for all. The players said they hope Canada Soccer resolves these issues before their Nations League match against Curacao on June 9th. And it's unclear if the team will refuse to play that game if terms aren't met. So, Yeah, that's pretty wild. Like, I feel bad for the people who all came in to watch a game and then less than 2 hours they canceled the game. So that, that's kind of unfair there too. But I also understand, that a lot of this has to do with their daily living, about them, living, right? Their living conditions. Are they going to be living well, right? Or are they getting paid enough or whatever it is? And they're not asking for any money from what is already being made. They're just asking for the new money coming in, like the 10 million that will come from Qatar for qualifying for the World Cup. So, let's see what happens, but I hope they don't cancel the next match, because the next match is a real match for CONCACAF, the Nations Cup, so they need to, I hope they don't skip that one there, but we'll see what happens. So that is a top 3 news in sports and also world news, so I hope you guys really enjoyed that. It helped you in your prayers and give you some little bit of an entertainment, some entertainment value, right? All right, so that is the news, which means what is it time for, guys? It is the golden time. I don't know why I did that, but I just wanted to scream a bit, because this is a time when God and the Holy Spirit are watching us in praise. And I want to start with a couple good songs here, some new songs. The Masterpiece of a Lifetime. This is a new song that I really, really like. And then we'll go to Let's Sing the Songs of Love. And we'll end things off with an oldie but a goodie, that is Soar, and that is the acoustic version. All right, so as one body of the Morning Star Drive, let's spend this time giving praise, honor, and glory to the Holy Trinity.
Now we are almost done. Take courage and be strong. If you only sit there drained without any strength, tell me, what then can I do? I've come this far looking at you. What can I do? Is there any way I can take your hand? God, the Almighty Savior, is coming near. He's on his way to converse with you. Will you remain just sitting down? Come on, time to go now. Lift your eyes, see heaven is waiting. The clouds stand still. They wait for you to realize they're sitting still to help you see and realize. That's it, you are starting to see. On days like this, when we are together, seeing you lead me by the hand is beautiful. My beloved one, seeing you gives me strength. You're awesome, and that is why I have chosen you. You're just that great, and you have come so far now. You're the masterpiece of my life, the masterpiece of a lifetime. Does not change. You are firm, unwavering. Even as storms rage on, even as winds blow strong, even as the seasons come and go, even if rainstorms and blizzards may come your way, you've never once changed. Your love stays strong. That beauty never fades. And the fragrance of your life is the air on the breeze, giving off your sweet scent. How fragrant are these lovely days of spring. beautiful are the days of spring. Days are warm and just like myself, warm and cozy, so bright, so full of hope.
Just as the Bible promised, the day came, and God fulfilled His will for the earth. Above a warm mundo, our spirits went soaring up with the Lord. We flew up to that city of gold. Now let us soar up, flying higher, acting on His word with our bodies here, overcoming ourselves, ruling over the dark. We have rapture, let's testify. We'll make providence shine, and our spirits will help with the strength of the rapture. As we make history, we'll see the Lord is smiling. we will soar up higher and higher, rising up on our powerful wings, knowing that we fulfilled heaven's will for us. Raptured brides, let us live this life of thanksgiving and love. Now let us soar up, flying higher, acting on His word with our bodies here, overcoming ourselves, ruling over the dark. We have rapture, let's testify. We'll make Providence shine, and our spirits will help with the strength of the rapture. As we make history, we'll see the Lord is smiling. Now let us soar up, flying higher, acting on His word with our bodies here, overcoming ourselves, ruling over the dark. We have rapture, let's testify. We'll make Providence shine, and our spirits will help with the strength of the rapture. Yes, we will make history. Heaven is open. We have rapture, so let's seize this moment and make ourselves. Let's awaken the world to this new history, so that they will not miss this chance. Like the engine of love, time is flowing away. Our Lord urges us onward. Let's rapture up even more, soaring higher. Let's rapture up even more. Let's rapture up even more. Let's rapture up even more, soaring higher.
And what a great song. That is Soar, the acoustic version. That kind of that feeling, that acoustic feeling is something where you can just relax and I'm having a coffee on the beach. That's the kind of feeling I'm getting. I'm not sure about you guys. That's the feeling I get. Before that, let's sing the songs of love and of course the masterpiece of a lifetime. All right. So let's get into the word study for today. Now that we have we're a bit more spiritual now because we've praised and worshiped God. Let's get into the word study for today. And of course, for every single Tuesday, what are we doing? We are always doing, what was I going to say? Oh, we're always doing Bible and script, like coming from this week's scriptures. I'm like, I completely had a brain fart at that moment. I was like, well, what am I talking about? Yeah, it's going to be for, this week's going to be the book of Psalms. So we do have the complete Testament scripture. And of course, we don't have any background because it's in real time. But we're looking at the scriptures are all from Psalms after that. So we're going to take a look at the book of Psalms, and I hope that you guys will enjoy today's word study too. That'll help you guys to read it a lot more better, more informed, and understanding the context behind it. Now, one thing we do need to know, let's start with the book of Psalms. One thing we do need to know is a timeline of when these books were written. And they were written from the beginning, from the reign of Saul, right? So the unified kingdom was when these Psalms were written. The reign of Saul, a reign of David, reign of Solomon, and even a little bit after during the fall of Judah and the exile, right? So this is a huge amount of time in between, right? So you're looking at anywhere from like 1050 BC to like 586, right? So which means we're looking at roughly 500 years of experiences, praise and worship that they're all writing these things down for. So the individual Psalms, they just come from diverse periods of Israel's history, right? Saul was a difficult, David was awesome, Solomon was even better, and then there's the fall of Judah. So you're going to see there's a diverse periods of when these psalms were written, but at every stage they served as the songbook of God's people. So David wrote about half of the psalms, and his role as king was more than that of a ruler. He was to represent and even embody the people, and their well-being was tied to his faithfulness. David then writes as a representative, and the readers must discern whether the emphasis of a psalm is more on his role as ruler or more on his role as ideal Israelite, in which he is an example for all. So the historical occasions mentioned in the Psalms, the Psalm titles, help the reader to see how faith applies to real life situations. So there are a bunch of when we're reading this, we're going to see that there are different types of psalms, right? So psalms can be identified according to some basic categories, right? So the first type of psalm is a lament, right? Which it's about a troubled situation before the Lord, asking him for help, right? Like for instance, you'll see Psalm 12, and that's more for like a community lament. There's an individual lament in Psalm 13, and this category is the largest by far, right? Almost a third of the psalms are laments, okay? The second type of psalm is a hymn of praise, which call God's people to admire God's great attributes and deeds. And you can find that, like, say, a good example is Psalms chapter 8, okay? Then there's hymns of thanksgiving. As with laments, there are community thanksgiving and individual thanksgiving psalms. And then there's hymns celebrating God's law. And that's I think this is the largest chapter in the Bible, is Psalms chapter 119. And then there's wisdom psalms, which reflect themes from the wisdom books like Job, Proverbs, Ecclesiastes, Song of Solomon's. And a good example is Psalms chapter 1 is more of a wisdom psalm. And then there's songs of confidence, which enable worshipers to deepen their trust in God amid difficult circumstances. And this is the best example is Psalm 23, probably the most famous psalm of all of them. And then there are royal psalms, which present the Davidic monarchy as the vehicle of blessing for God's people. Some of these are prayers, some are thanksgiving, but they all relate to the Messiah, the ultimate heir of David, either by setting a pattern or by portraying the king's reign in such a way that only the Messiah can completely fulfill it, right? Or by focusing on the future, right? So that those are the royal psalms. Then there's historical psalms, which take lessons from the history of God's dealings with his people. And last but not least, there's prophetic hymns, which echo the prophets, calling people to covenant faithfulness, okay? The book of Psalms can be broken into 5 different books, okay? The first book is Psalms 1 to 41, right? And that's kind of like you'll see, like, even Psalms chapter 1 and 2 provide an introduction to the Psalms as a whole, right? And the remaining Psalms are Psalms of David, and most of them are prayers of distress. Others are statements of confidence in the God who alone can save, kind of thing. The second book is from Psalms 42 to 72, right? And this book too introduces the first group of Psalms by the sons of Korah, okay? And now there are also more Psalms of David, including most of the historical Psalms, but once again, lament and distress dominate these prayers, which now also include a communal voice, right? So that's book 2. Book 3 is 73 to 89, okay? And the tone darkens further in book 3. It's basically, even like if you look at even the first book, which is Psalm 73, it questions the justice of God before seeing light in God's presence. And that light has almost escaped the psalmist by the time you get to Psalm 88, right? Which is probably, they consider Psalm 88 the bleakest of all psalms, right? And, book 2 ended with a high point of royal aspirations, but book 3 concludes it concludes in 89, right? That's the last of book 3. And with the expectations badly threatened and sharp rays of hope occasionally pierce the darkness, kind of thing. So that is book 3. Book 4 is from chapter 90 to 106. And it's kind of the first response to the problems raised by book 3. And it's attributed to Moses, reminds the worshipers that God was active on Israel's behalf long before David. And this theme is taken up also throughout book 4. right? And last but not least, we have book 5, which is the remaining 107 to 150, and it reflects the closing petition of book 4. It declares that God does answer prayers and concludes with 5 hallelujah psalms, right? So it's very, very interesting how they split this into 5 books, which is kind of cool, right? So let's go a little bit further and deeper into it with some, let's go further about the book of Psalms. So we see that there's 150 chapters, but they're lyric poems. Okay, what's a lyric poem? A lyric poem is defined as something which directly expresses the individual emotions of the poet. Okay, so religious lyric poetry reflects the inner feelings of the person whose soul is stirred by thoughts of God. And the Psalms are thus like inspired responses of various individuals to God's revelation of himself in the Old Testament era. So background information concerning the Psalms is obtained from 3 sources. So if you want to know the background information of the Psalms, what are the 3 sources? Number 1 is contextual data within the respective poems. The second one is superscriptions connected with many of these works. And superscriptions is kind of the same word as a title, right? It's like the title of the psalm. And the last one is the New Testament usage of these compositions. And those are the 3 ways that you can check out the background information of these psalms. Now, when we say superscriptions, like I said, it's like titles, right? They are associated with about 116 of these chapters in Psalms. And the titles are actually not part of the original inspired documents, but they do reflect great antiquity, antedating even the Septuagint, which is, the Septuagint is the Greek version of the Old Testament. That came out in the 3rd century BC. And these titles, in many cases, supply information as the name of the author or the historical circumstance which occasioned the narrative, the type of literature, whether it was a song or a prayer. So that's kind of the good thing about these superscriptions or these titles. And the Psalms were composed over a span about 1,000 years. So that's my mistake. I thought it was 500. It's 1,000 years. The earliest was by Moses. That's Psalm chapter 90 was by Moses. And that's in the 15th century BC. And a couple appear to be contemporary with the Babylonian captivity in the 6th century, right? And some of these poems are not assigned authors. Like almost a third of them don't have an author. And other composers are identified. 1 by Moses, 73 by David, 12 by Asaph, 10 by the descendants of Korah, 1 or 2 by Solomon, 1 by Heman, not He-Man, but He-Man. His name's He-Man, yeah, and 1 by Ethan. All right, so that's quite interesting to see that not a third of them don't even have their actual writers on it. Now, one thing that's quite interesting when you look at these lyrical poems, we're looking at not the regular types of poems that we have, because a lot of them, like when you look at modern poetry, it's more about rhyme, right? Hebrew poetry is characterized by rhythmic arrangements of thought patterns, right? And we call thought patterns we call these parallelisms, right? So they're like, I'll give you an example of how Hebrew poetry is. There's one called synonymous parallelism. Okay, so what happens is in the first sentence there is a thought that is spoken. And then in the second sentence, it's the same idea, but expressed again in a slightly different term. So let me give you an example of like Psalm chapter 7, verse 1. It says, "O Jehovah my God, in thee do I take refuge." Okay, so when you look at this, there is a theme there that God is the one that is my protector, that he will protect me from my enemies, right? But then the second sentence says the exact same thing, but in a different expression. And the second sentence is, "Save me from all them that pursue me and deliver me," right? So that's a synonymous parallelism. Thought is spoken, and the same idea is expressed again in slightly different terms. Which means I'll give you the second example, which is the opposite, right? And they call this the antithetic parallelism, in which the second line is set in contrast to the previous line, right? So synonymous means that it's the same theme. The second one is a different or contrasting theme. So my example would be Psalm chapter 1, verse 6. First sentence is, "For Jehovah knoweth the way of the righteous." Okay, so God knows the way of the righteous. Then the second sentence is, "But the way of the wicked shall perish." So now it's one is about the righteous, one is about the wicked. Okay, so that's an antithetic parallelism. Okay, so you're going to see that a lot of, not all of them obviously, but I'm just giving you some examples of Hebrew poetry that kind of, it will open your mind a bit to what you're reading. And this is poetry from the Hebrew from like a Hebrew type of poetry, not from the poetry that we're used to. Okay. The Psalms, when you look at the Psalms in the New Testament, though, the Psalms are actually quoted more frequently in the New Testament than any other book in the Old Testament. Okay, so there are about 100 direct references or allusions from the Psalms in the New Testament, and so the divine inspiration of the Psalms is strongly affirmed in the New Testament, and like even Jesus, like he would say to the Jewish leaders, how then can David in the Spirit call him Lord, right? And Jesus was quoting from Psalm chapter 110. Again, Peter quoting from Psalm 69 declared the Holy Spirit spoke before by the mouth of David concerning Judas, right? That's all the way in Acts chapter 1 verse 16. So you see that Psalms is a very, very powerful book, that it was the most quoted in all of the New Testament, right? And when we're looking at these Psalms, we talked about these different types of Psalms, right? And we're going to see, we talked about this already, that there are different themes of Psalms, which I talked about before. And just a quick reminder, what were they? There were laments, praise, thanksgiving, celebrating God's law, wisdom, songs of confidence, royal psalms, historical psalms, and prophetic hymns. Right, so you're going to see that is those are the 5 different themes. And the last thing I want to talk about today was more of the theology of the Psalms. Okay, so the Bible, the entire Bible itself, has this theological unity, right? So you're not going to be surprised to learn that the great truths with that burst from the New Testament are found in. They're found in the Old Testament, right? That's what Sunsim said this week. He says, you need to know the Old Testament to understand the New Testament. How God worked in the Old Testament, then you'll understand how he's going to work in the New Testament, right? Like history repeats itself, right? So in the same way, too, we understand that the great truths of the New Testament are already found in the Old Testament. And the Psalms contribute significantly to this concept. One example I'll give you is the nature of God is graphically set forth in the Psalms, right? Like, for instance, the Psalms say that he is eternal, he's omnipresent, he's powerful and wise, immutable, holy, just, and he's worthy to be praised, okay? So the Psalms affirm that Jehovah is the creator of the universe and the maker and preserver of man. And these poems underscore the fact that man has introduced sin into this world and that horrible consequences have followed in its wake because of us, because, of Adam and Eve, including the prospect of divine judgment. But God is represented as a gracious and merciful Redeemer through the Psalms, who is willing to pardon those who seek his forgiveness through obedience. Now, there are going to be some people who argue that the wicked cease to exist at death and allege that a basis for their doctrine is to be found in the Psalms. But, there's a lot of different people that, there's always going to be people against and for it, right? So what we need to really understand that the theology of the Psalms is very strong on the righteous. The righteous will be redeemed from the power of God and be received into glory, and also that the death of the wicked they'll be cut off from the earth and they'll have no future, right? So that is a one of the theologies in the Psalms, and kind of the sacred poetry of the religions of like when you think about this is it's interesting because this is God's poetry when you look at the book of Psalms, and the Psalms are still considered a great book, and they're still fresh as if they were written yesterday, right? And people might ask, well, how can they still be so fresh, right? And the only explanation people have is they were basically inspired, invigorated with the Spirit of the living God, and it's through real life situations that we are going through right now. And this is why so many people can call upon the Psalms even today and quote them, and it gives them strength. It gives them that hope, and that gives them that power, knowing that God will also redeem them too. So this is quite interesting that Psalms is a great book, and it's something that is if it wasn't that great, why would it be the most quoted from the New Testament time? Okay, so I hope it's something that you guys can really, kind of get your teeth around and just digest this, but how great and powerful this book of Psalms really is. And I hope it's something that we can really think about even more while we read this book of Psalms, especially we have like 4 or 5 different verses from Psalms this week too. I hope that you guys can read at least a chapters from that verse also. Okay, so that is the end of the word study. Hope you guys really enjoyed this time of going over the book of Psalms. If you have any questions, put in the comments below. Would love to hear what you guys think about that also. There's just so many things to learn, so many things to think about when it comes to reading the Bible too. Okay, all right, so that means we are going to get into the song of choice for today, and of course it is Korean Tuesday. Okay, and I was looking for some songs, looking for some new songs. Like I even looked at what are the songs that were released this week in K-pop, but I came across a song. I had no idea that this song was out there. Have you guys ever, you guys know Psy, the one that did Gangnam Style, right? He has this amazing song that came out. It's just raw. It is so real. And the song is called Happier, and it's featuring someone called Crush. I think he's a rapper. But the song is called Happier. And I was like, oh, I wonder what this is, right? Because there's already like 18 million views on it. And I looked at the lyrics. It is so deep. And it's basically his life, what he's experienced so much fame. But look at the lyrics of this song. Some of it says, I thought happiness was when things work out well, but it's a trap that only shows a glimpse of hope. It's a star in the sky beyond my reach, and it's just watching me fall apart. And now I'm sick of pretending. So when you listen to that, he went through something really deep. And he says, there's a flower of greed in my heart. And then when you go to the chorus, I'm not sure. Well, basically it's saying these 3 lines. He says, I want to be beautiful. I want to be human. I want to be someone's love. And when you listen to this, it's almost like he's got all the success and he thought he would be much happier, but he's not. And when I listened to this, I was like, wow, like this is really deep. So this is Psy from Korea. And this song is called Happier featuring Crush.
잘 돼야 하는데 잘 돼야만 그게 행복인 줄 알았어 행복인 줄 알았어 그래 행복이란 건 안 맞던 구름 같은 것 신락 같은 희망을 주면서 나를 유혹하는 것 행복은 저 하늘의 별 내 손에 닿지 않는 곳 그 어딘가에 머물며 무너지는 날 보고만 있어 지겨워 괜찮은 척 힘내라는 말도 썩 듣기 좋지는 않아 그들의 말은 가시가 달린 장미꽃 이 세상이란 벽이 너무 높아 수미가 뻐 미친 듯 달려왔지만 난 딱 중간쯤에 서 있어 저 하늘을 봐 여전히 푸르잖아 그게 원망스러울 때도 있겠지만 난 때뿐이잖아 모르잖아 사람 일은 아무도 모르잖아 난 살아있고 미래를 꿈꾸잖아 무뎌질 줄 알았던 그 아픔도 끝내 지우지 못해 어쩌면 손 뻗으면 될 거라 믿었는데 이젠 멀리 와버린 듯해 I wanna be happier 그때 기억을 꺼내요 그래 행복이란 건 저 길의 끝에 있는 점 다가가면 갈수록 멀어져 만질 수가 없는 것 행복은 비행기에서 내려다본 세상 같은 것 내 전부는 세상의 일부 난 그 일부의 일부라는 것 신이시여 내 마음의 병을 제발 고쳐주십시오 말하자 다 알았으니 네 마음을 여기 꺼내보거라 내 얼굴은 내 어레골에 핀 욕심이라는 꽃 입에는 욕 눈에는 독 채울 수 없는 밑이 빠진 독 저 바다를 봐 끝이 안 보이잖아 끝을 보려고 발버둥 쳐봤자 결국 제자리잖아 모르잖아 사람 일은 아무도 모르잖아 난 살아있고 미래를 꿈꾸잖아 무뎌질 줄 알았던 그 아픔도 끝내 지우지 못해 어쩌면 손 뻗으면 될 거라 믿었는데 이젠 멀리 와버린 싶어서 누군가의 사랑이고 싶어서 자랑이고 싶어서 아름답고 싶어서 사람답고 싶어서 누군가의 사랑이고 싶어서 자랑이고 싶어서
무뎌질 줄 알았던 그 무뎌질 줄 알았던 그대 지우지 못해 어쩌면 손 뻗으면 될 거라 믿었는데 이젠 멀리 와버린 듯해 I wanna be happier 그때기야 그 소중했던 기억들 꺼내요
And that was Psy featuring Crush with the song Happier. Hope you guys, it's a really, really deep song, just kind of going through his experience. But and it's kind of interesting because I just heard recently that Psy performed in Malaysia and there's a big concert over there too. But yeah, it's very interesting how he came up with this song. And it's kind of very telling of what he's been through in his life and what he's realized from it. So I hope you guys really enjoyed. I'm gonna put the video into I'm going to put the link in the description, but I'll put the link in that has the English translation in it. When you read it, it's really, really deep, and it kind of just shows you the what do you call it, the state of the world and how people are right now. Either way. All right, so that was a song of choice for today. Hope you guys enjoyed that, which means we're going to move into the last section, the last segment. Every single Tuesday, we have our thoughts of the week, and this week's thoughts of the week, I'm going to talk about understanding our mission. Right, our mission. And mission kind of means like your mission, the things that you do in your church. For instance, we have all these different departments. What's the mission as the campus department? What's the mission as the SS? What's the mission as career or campus or faith stars or elders and eldresses? Or, there's a lot of different groups out there. And it's quite interesting because I had a talk with a leader the other day. And one of the things that we got into, we were talking about is, people have been in Providence for a long time now, right? There's like the people who've been in for Providence a long time, they've been there for a long time, right? So the history is only 44 years old. So it's very, very short, relatively short for a history or a religion, whatever it is, right? However, there's already a lot of people who've been in Providence for 20 to 30 years, which means more than half the time that Providence has been existing. So that's a long time to see all the different changes and things that have happened. And the one thing that we found that was kind of interesting is a lot of people don't know what their role is, right? What is their mission? What is their role? Like for instance, imagine you just became a blessed family. What's the role? What are you supposed to do? Like how do you contribute to the church, where a lot of people will be thinking to themselves, man, how can I help the church? What should I do? Right? Even if you became a department leader, you're the JS department leader, family department leader, even in there, we've been here for such a long time. But when we get to those positions and we're in leadership, and then people will come to us and say, what can we do for the church? What are we supposed to do? Like, what is a blessed family? What is our role inside the church, right? What is our mission, right? And what I wanted to focus more on today was the mission or the role of older members in Providence, right? And I'm talking more spiritually, right? Spiritually, and I would even say even older members. What is the role that they have in the church? And it's something that's very interesting because I've had this talk with members in the Whitestone Church too, because Whitestone Church is kind of like an example church. And people always talk about, what can I do? What can I do? What can I do? And also in the messages, like on the Sunday message, he's like, even if you don't do anything special, let's just live together and love each other, right? And that's something else that's really powerful also, right? And we need to look at this and understand this in a very different way, is especially like when you first come to Providence, you're on fire. You're going to pre-dawn. You're doing all these other great things, and you're keeping your faith up. You're contributing to the church, and as time goes on, things change, and you can't do as much. You go to work. You work 9-to-5 job 5 times a week, whatever it is. And what we can do for the church is much. It changes with time, and it changes with our age and our role when we get married or whatever it is, right? And as we go further and further, what is the biggest thing that we can do, right, as a role for the church? Okay, so like for instance, there is the role. Let's just say blessed family. There is the role of the blessed family. There is a role, right? That's their mission. That's their department that they're in. They're raising their families and everything else. But then there's also a role as being a blessed family. Right. So when I was at the Lord's church, there was just the fact you were a blessed family. Many of these people, especially the seniors, have been with Sunsteam since the beginning. They've been in Providence for like 25, 30 years. Right? Probably some of them even more than 30 years. They're hitting their 50s. What is the thing, like a big role that they have? What about if you became an elder? What if you became a deacon? What if you became someone who's like a leader? And what is this massive role that, like, what can we do for the church? And there is one thing that matters more than anything else, right? Is more than giving financially. It's more than buying stuff for the church. It's more than taking people out. It's more than taking care of people also. And it's sometimes, we're always going through extremes in our Providence life, where sometimes we go too extreme on one side. It's too spiritual, then we don't take care of the physical. And then we go too physical and we don't take care of the spiritual. And of course, we're always trying to find a balance. But what is the number one thing you can do? And this is probably for everyone too. But as someone who's like an older member in Providence, when you're like blessed families and JS, people have been here for a long time, and elders and leaders who've been in Providence for a long time, there is something that is so big that everyone can do, but they don't look at this as such a big thing. And this is my experience in the Lord's church. I was in the Lord's church for the first 5 years, a lot of growth. It was really exciting. And then I went to go head lead, and then I went back to visit back to the Lord's church about 3 years later, right? 3.5 years later, I went back to the Lord's church, and it was different. Very, very different. I was like, what is going on here? Like, what is happening here, right? It's like, something's changed. I went to pre-dawn, and it was different. And I'm like, what's so different? I couldn't catch it. And then as I was going to pre-dawn, it was like every day at pre-dawn, the first 4 rows in the sanctuary of people praying, they were all older members of Providence. Whether JS, family, or elders, whatever it is, they were all there every single day before anyone else. And when I found out when they were coming at 2 a.m., all of them together, first 4 rows packed, right? And I'm like going, what is going on? This is crazy, right? Because what we're used to is, guess what? We take all the newcomers and all the young people, put them in the front. Right? We put them all in the front, and then whenever we have things with Sunsteam, we put them all in the front because they're newcomers and they're young. Like, and in our minds, we're like, that's who Sunsteam wants to see. But it's really interesting because when you go to like the retreats, and I'm sure a lot of you have been to the retreats, but when it comes to like the older members in Providence, like the BFs or the older JS and the elders and elders, when you go to those ones, Sunsteam talks to them like they're close friends. They've been with each other for so long, right? And we've heard this a lot too, is whenever Sunsteam is meeting groups of people, he's always looking for familiar faces, like people that he knows. And it's really interesting because in our thoughts, we're thinking, oh, push them all forward, make sure all the newcomers, all this is, let Sunsteam see all of them. But when I sat down with some of the elders, right, and the BFs, I'm like, wow, everything changed. Like, what happened at pre-dawn? And they said this, and it was really interesting. They said this. They said, In the beginning, we thought to ourselves that, just let the young ones go forward, and the new, let them all go forward. But as time goes on, what happens is, because young people are still new and young people are young, they're not as stable. Right? They're not as stable. Their faith goes up and down. Sometimes they come to pre-dawn, sometimes they don't come to pre-dawn. And what happens is there's this big, then pre-dawn becomes very unstable because everyone in the back is looking to the front and they're seeing that, there's missing spots constantly. Sometimes a lot of them are missing, and it changes the dynamics of the service, right? And what they said was they realized that the reason why they all of a sudden went to Pastor Joanne and took those spots up at the front is to become the foundation, right? That every day you see them up there, every single day. They're there before everyone else. They're the ones praying the powerful prayers because they've been doing it for decades and decades, right? And they're powerful at prayer. And every day they would be there. I'm telling you guys, they were always the first ones there. I was shocked when I heard it was 2 a.m., and they said, we need to build that foundation. And then they took the spots, and they even took so much ownership that there are names on each part of the seats. There's name tags there. Like there's like those things that said this person sits here, kind of their name is up there, and they would take ownership of it, and they would show people what providence is going to be like in the future, that as you grow older, you become more powerful spiritually. You become those that are more, you become more stable. And this is one thing that I do notice, like even for myself, sometimes it's like that, where older people, like, and I'm going to tell you the difference between these people who are like the people that I saw at the Lord's church, and the difference between others that are thinking quite differently, right? So I've seen this a lot in churches everywhere, where the older people come to church and the young people are not coming, and they're not complaining, but like, hey, where's the young people? What's happening? How come the young people aren't here? Right? And it's kind of like empty because, all the young people are not there at pre-dawn all the time. But the thing that I noticed that was really interesting was the mentality difference. When I talked to these people at the Lord's church, the mentality difference of these BFs and older JSs and elders and eldresses and stuff like that too was, it wasn't the, what's happening? How come there's no young people at pre-dawn? It was more of, even if no one comes to pre-dawn, I will make sure the lampstand of pre-dawn is always lit. And that's a completely different mentality. One is coming from the, more of a judging side. Wait, what's going on here? Which means, that shouldn't be the mentality going into pre-dawn, right? Like, remember that story about Sunstein when it was raining and snowing, and he knew it was so much rain that he was scared that no one would be at pre-dawn, so at least he had to go and he'd cross the river, which would be up to his waist or whatever it is, right? That's a completely different mentality. But a lot of times people are affected by, oh, no one's here. Oh my gosh, I'm discouraged. Oh, or people get upset and people get mad that they're the only ones at pre-dawn, instead of being the one saying, I'm the one keeping the light on. And it's something that we have to think about, is the spiritual condition becomes the most important part of this history. It is the spiritual part. Without the spiritual things, then all the physical things aren't going to work out. Our relationship has to be that deep and that great with God first before the other things come into play, right? And we have to be those that really understand this at that high level, right? If we're going to have the mentality of the Lord isn't, where the heck is everyone? The mentality of the Lord is, even if the head leader doesn't come, I will be there for that. And they become the foundational pieces of the church, right? And of course, as you grow older, you're not going to be able to go on campus, because what's a campus person going to want to talk to a 50-year-old for, or even a 40-year-old, right? Even if you look young, when they find out you're 40-something, what are you doing on campus kind of thing? It's really weird, right? The roles change as you mature and grow older, and there's different things that we can do. But ultimately, one of the greatest things that we have to do as a role of those that have been in Providence longer, the people that are more mature, the people that are more stable, is it's stability that allows people to not freak out. Okay, like one thing I noticed right now, remember, there's a crash in the stock market, in the crypto market. There's a huge crash right now, right? And with this crash, you'll have tons of people that freak out, right? But imagine if your leader or someone is always calm, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, what's going on?" It's like, "Hey guys, hey, don't worry about it. Hey, let's pray. This relationship's between you and God, and we are the ones that are holding the fort down. While it's difficult for other people, let's make sure we pray for everyone." It calms everyone down when it's stable, right? Think about this too. Even when it comes to money, if you're not financially stable, it wrecks you up. You're not sure when you're going to eat. You're not sure where you're going to sleep, and you are constantly in anxious mode. But if you are financially stable, what happens? Well, if you're financially stable, then you're not worried, right? You're not slipping back and forth, right and left, but you're always staying on the right track. Why? Because it's stable. Stability is such a big part of it. And the younger people are growing and learning and becoming mature, and they're going to have ups and downs. But it's the older people, physically, spiritually, mentally, they're the ones that hold the fort. And this is why you're going to see that a lot of times you'll have members that are young evangelize their parents, and their parents are so much stronger. They are. So, because they have the mentality. They've been through it. They've experienced it. They're not going to be like freaking out by slander because they've seen this before. They see it in the media, right? And they're actually much less emotional about it. And they become more of the foundational piece. And what we have to realize, especially for those that are older in Providence, physically, mentally, spiritually, we have that role. And that role is to keep the fire burning, being that foundation that steadies the church, that no matter what happens, it's okay. There's always those first 4 rows, and they are praying. Like when I was watching them pray, on fire every day. And that was from 2 a.m. to 4:30 a.m. They were going strong. For I think when I was there, they're already on like day 20 something. And Sunstein was so impressed that he joined the prayer condition, which was started by them. Isn't that crazy? And what we have to realize is, yeah, there's a lot of roles that we have, but we can't lose that role of being a bride and being the bride that has been here longer, more mature, and more stable, that keeps the church stable. Right? Like, yeah, it makes a big difference. Think about it, right? It's always the parents that keep the family steady. The parents shouldn't be freaking out, right? And in the same way, too, we have to realize when it comes to what is happening in this history, it should be the older people that steadies. It doesn't mean they're leading. It doesn't mean they're out on campus. No, they set that spiritual foundation that is so strong that even the young people, when they come to church, they feel the spiritual vibe. Like these people are praying. They're in tears or they're crying out to God. And when people walk in, they're like, wow, this is pre-dawn. This is pre-dawn. But a lot of times we get stuck into the, oh, I'm so tired and this. And then, it's just so quiet during pre-dawn and people are falling asleep or whatnot. And it's not as great as it should be. But, this is one of these big roles that these people the people of mission, these brides of mission, right? Older, stable, they're usually married, have kids, been in Providence for a long time, elders, eldresses, deacons, blessed families, JS, they are like this foundational piece where they can always be relied upon. Not saying always be relied upon is they're coming to lecture, they're coming to give money. Like that's not the big thing. The big thing is, can they hold the church spiritually? And this is something we do have to ask ourselves, right? Who's holding the church? If it's all the young people holding the church, it's a difficult thing because it'll go up and down. You just can't help it. Why? Because they're growing in maturity and growing in faith. It should be where the older people are holding the fort spiritually. No matter what happens, they're always there. They're always keeping calm. They're not freaking out. They're not saying, where are all the young people? Why isn't evangelism happening? It shouldn't be it shouldn't be working in that way. They should be holding the church as a foundational piece, right? Remember, the longer we're in Providence, the stronger we should be. The longer we're in Providence, the more capable, right? The more mature, the more stable, the more strong and powerful we should be, right? And this is something that we really have to think about, is we can't be thinking that, oh, well, the head leaders and the leaders should be there. That's not the right thinking. Even though they should, it shouldn't be our thinking. Our thinking should be, hey, even if no one goes, I will go. I will make sure that that lamp never burns out at pre-dawn. Oh, the department leader didn't come. I got to pray for them. Let's pray for them. And you guys have to realize too, is a lot of the department leaders we have too are actually pretty young. Unless it's like the Lord's Church, because the Lord's Church, they have ex-head leaders, like people who are head leading, that are leading these departments that are bigger than almost every church in the world outside of Korea. They have departments of 100, 500 people in a department, as crazy as that sounds, right? But the mentality has to change, right? We have to be the ones that hold it. Right? We can't be sitting there just, especially for the older members in Providence, don't sit there thinking that the leaders have to do everything. No, leaders should be there, but the big support is coming from the blessed families, the older JS, the elders, the deacons, the eldresses. These are the people that are holding the fort, and that's the greatest support you can give to a leader, is that prayer, is holding the fire in the pre-dawn, in the services, right? Is not the, I can relax now because I've done my work. Since when does it end? It doesn't. And we have to recognize this, and I hope it's something that will inspire us even more, understanding where we should be going, okay? So that is my thoughts of the week for today, and that's going to be on our role and our missions, especially for those who are older in Providence. And I hope that it can reignite our minds and our hearts once again to think the right way, okay? So that is the last segment for today. Hope you guys really enjoyed this. I hope that everyone has an amazing and awesome Tuesday. And we'll see you guys again tomorrow on the Morning Star Drive on 117.8.
It's the Morning Star Drive 117.8. You soaring up with sky, now's the time, don't delay. I'm sitting in my ride and it's time to fly. So let's realign, just listen and fill your mind.
I'm burning with desire and the passion. Nobody can stop me when I'm like this. I got my head in the zone, I'm on the Morning Star Drive, I'm burning with desire and the passion. Nobody can stop me when I'm like this. I got my head in the zone, I'm on the Morning Star Drive.